that?
Are you going to tell us what you're doing?
I haven't been in one of these since 1961. But when I sit in it and look at the instruments, it brings back the time when we flew these in Europe, and when it was really comfortable to get into an airplane like this and know that you could fly it and know that it was responsive and that it was a great airplane. And looking at the instruments, they all look very familiar. I'm a little far forward because usually you have a parachute behind you. But everything is here that's required. It's these, the C1 autopilot, the turbo boost selector for takeoff, throttles, the mixture controls, full rich for takeoff, the manifold pressure, and the RPM. Those are the important things, and the fuel flow indicators. And of course the flight indicator, which was a lifesaver when you got in the soup. The airspeed goes up to 500 miles per hour. I don't think we ever went 500 miles per hour. That would have been supersonic. But this was a lot faster airplane than the B-17.
This?
Because when I checked out,
What's up on the top, Colonel Shaw?
Okay, you have the buttons for feathering the props here. And those are very handy in case the prop got shot or an engine went out and the prop was windmilling, it would really slow you down. So if you could feather the prop, the airplane flew pretty well. It would fly on 3 engines, it would fly on 2 engines, but one had to be very careful flying it on 2 engines because, especially if 2 engines went out on one side, some people found that they were not very maneuverable in the final approach, and they lost their aircraft and their lives with them. It was a very tricky operation to bring it in on 2 engines on one side.
I don't remember this much.
The compass here looks in good shape. This airplane makes me feel comfortable because it is one on which I spent a lot of time, and which was a real pleasure to fly.
Tell us what's above your head.
Pardon?
What's above your head, the instruments?
Okay, and here we got the ADF radio for tuning in the beacon. And we used to, when we came back from a mission, we tuned in the beacon just north of the airfield, and we'd come over at proper altitude, and we could let down. If there was any visibility, we could follow a railroad. Otherwise, we had to just follow a course off from the beacon for a certain number of minutes until we got over the field, and hoping that we could see the field. Many times in England, you couldn't see much of the field when you came in until you got right over it. And so we had a traffic pattern which required us to come over the field and make a sharp turn sharply around, and keep the field in sight until we got into the end of the runway, and then straighten the airplane out, level, and land it. But it worked pretty well. Here we got some more radio controls up here. There was a night light that gave us a red light for seeing the instruments at night. And of course, you always had to have your earphones on, unless you had your helmet with earphones. And of course, I'm sorry I didn't bring my oxygen mask, or I could take oxygen. And here was the earphone for talking to the crew. And you heard some very interesting comments as you went along from the crew. It was very important to keep that on. And here was your heat. You turn this heat on, and you plug your suit in, and it was very effective in keeping you warm when you got to altitude.
Someone to keep them going until
There's the oxygen flow indicator down here.
Can you go through a check that you would go through when you first get in the plane?
A checklist? My checklist was always gas mixture, propellers, wheels, flaps. That was my verbal checklist. And of course, I relied on the co-pilot to go through the written out checklist when we were flying.
Oil not on the bottom, you know.
But I always found that gas mixture, propeller, wheels, flaps brought me down safely.
See? And that lost me my oil pressure. Had to feather it out.
That's how the Air Force.
There's a radio altimeter here.
You see how you're up in the air, you
A loss is to knowing how fast you're going or what your power is. We had one aircraft that went off, and he didn't realize it, and he thought he had full power, so he tried to go around, and when he got halfway around in the dark, the hydraulic pressure is very important, because if you didn't have hydraulic pressure, you couldn't safely get your gear down.
P-51. P-40s at first, and then later on P-51.
99?
Yeah, 99. Was that the 99? All the bomb groups were south of Mont Casino. Yeah. Mont Casino, that area. When I was in, you could hear the artillery at night from your bunks, early 44. When I'm there, I can hear the... You remember the artillery? Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
But the sound of the bombs going off, you know.
they said they never did get that back in days because some of the fighter boys wanted to see what they could do with an accent around the field, run it off the bank or run it into something, and never did get there.
Number 8, they couldn't put that coordinate 4 engines.
Colonel.
Let's do up there. Yeah.
Okay, rev it up, let's go.
Yeah, we'll give you, it's a bromide gas,
That's up on the friction lock.
No, not when I'm there. I don't like that. Let me look a little bit more.
Yeah, Jesus, get them all set and locked.
Rotate that on the later models. Got all 4 wastegates more and more closed, and as your wastegates got more and more closed, then you push earlier models had a lever for each one. The lever for each of them. These have a lever. The J's have a lever.
500 RPM.
Wastegate. These are the wastegates for each turbo charger. And
Does he have a instrument that indicates
So how does it feel being back in the plane again?
As a matter of fact, it feels quite comfortable. And I just wish that more of the systems in this airplane are operating. And I think I could fly one of these airplanes if I could get my hands on one that's operational. I think I'd really enjoy it. Because I always felt that it was a very controllable, very responsive airplane. I always enjoyed flying it.
Do you think you could take off right from in this building here?
Well, I'd like to have a little bit more runway out there. It takes about 4,000 feet, 3,000 to 4,000 feet. You can get off pretty well if you don't have any large obstructions. Yeah, might as well. Yeah. But everything in here looks very familiar. I would be very comfortable flying one of these. If there weren't too much flak, of course, if there's a lot of flak, then it gets a little bit more, brings up a little more apprehension.
Many a long night coming.
Oh.
That's an experience to sit in that B24 and being able to visualize and remember the times when we really flew them. It was really great.
Okay.